welcome to Plaid Stallions Toy Ventures. I am Brian, your host, and as you can plainly see, I'm on another road trip. This time on the way to St-Hyacinthe, just outside of Montreal, Quebec, for the Salon National des Collectionneurs, or the National Collectors Fair. And spoilers, it was absolutely a blast and something I've honestly missed seeing. While I still go to toy shows, this one hit a special nostalgic nerve for me, and I want to give some context. I started collecting in the mid-1980s when I was still in high school, and back then there was really just one big event toy show held twice a year. It was called the Toronto Toy Show. This was a show you just didn't want to miss. It was convention center packed with over 500 tables of toy collectors. And it was everything: toy cars, Barbies, plush, Lego, Hot Wheels, model kits, tin wind-ups, and action figures, of course. It was spun out of a collector's club, and it was not only a place of commerce, but a reunion of sorts. These people came from all over, including the United States and Europe and Quebec, of course. I grew up with a lot of these folks. I watched their kids grow up, and then they watched mine grow up. Due to multiple factors, the Toronto show is sadly a shadow of itself. It's a lot smaller these days. I still go when I can to see the old friends and the old faces, but the excitement that used to be around that show was legendary. One of the people I knew from those shows is my friend Phil, who runs the Force Collectibles. We had actually shared a booth at the Toronto Toy Show one year. He was setting up at this show and suggested I come and cover it for the channel. He even spoke to the showrunner, Sebastian, about getting me in an hour early to get some coverage. That was an awesome opportunity, and I really needed a break, so I hit the road in search of adventure, toys, and authentic patin. The minute I walked in the door, I knew exactly why Phil invited me to this. Despite never being here before and all the strange faces, I immediately felt at home. Getting in a bit early allowed me to not only capture some fantastic toy sights, but also I got to take in the vendors, many of which were just private collectors themselves. I watched them enthusiastically greet each other with hugs and start to share stories. It's been a while since I've been in something like this. In terms of the stuff, that's another reason to visit this part of Canada. Whenever the Quebec dealers showed up at a Toronto show, they were one of my first destinations, because children in Quebec got toys, comics, animated programs, and children's books that us English-speaking kids did not. Due to French language laws, a lot of the children's entertainment was imported from France, where it was dubbed in French. This included Japanese programming such as Captain Harlock, Battle of the Planets, Goldorak, and Candy. As a kid, I can honestly remember watching Captain Harlock in French. It was called Albator, and I had no idea what was going on, but the visuals were so amazing. Also, European literature characters such as Tintin, Lucky Luke, Asterix and Obelix, and the Smurfs were extremely popular with young readers in Quebec. With all that popularity, you better believe some exclusive merchandise was imported from Belgium, France, and Italy that you could not find in any other toy stores in Canada. On top of that, Quebec's ports were once the headquarters to major companies like Hasbro and Grand Toys, and known for their own exclusive. So even though I'm in the country of my birth, I can drive 5 hours from my home to a collector's show that is equal parts Canadian with strong European and Japanese influences. This was the major reason I wanted to come in the first place. I was absolutely blown away by this show, and I spent 2 hours filming before I even made a purchase on Saturday. Capturing this cool event was really a priority because it just went on forever and ever and was filled with never-ending eye candy. It was also nice to pay for things in Canadian dollars. I mean, $50 is just $50. There's no math required. So I'm going to start with a little slideshow. Then I'll talk about some insane rare toys I found, my show regrets, pickups, and other reflections. I had some absolutely fun pickups this weekend. So here we go. Hang tight. as you can see, the show was not only toys, but comics, video games, antiques, movie memorabilia. It was one of the best gatherings of vintage goodies I've been privy to in a long time. The atmosphere was vibrant, and the show itself was very well run. It even had a section where hobbyist groups displayed their passions and collections, be it wooden toys, old-timey computers, or even Quebec political memorabilia. I totally remember these dudes. So it's not going to be a surprise that I ran into a lot of rare and pricey toys at this show. The first thing I ran into was Grandizer, aka Goldorak. This is the Shogun warrior figure that was only available in Europe and in Quebec. I have one, but it's not complete. So the first thing I saw was a beautiful mint complete Goldorak for a fairly reasonable price, to be honest with you. But it was everything I was carrying with me. I wasn't going to pull the trigger that early in the show, but I really enjoyed chatting with the dealer who had a real passion for this stuff. And he showed me this awesome Japanese piece that he had.
It will hurt him, but...
Wow. And who made this?
I think it's...
Popy?
No, I'm not sure. C'est qui a fait celle-là? C'est pas ta... Ça, je pense, c'est MOTU.
MOTU? Oh, okay.
As I wandered the show, I would actually run into 3 more Goldorak figures, one even boxed. However, the price on the first one was not to be beat. Eventually, I realized that I could probably return to the show and buy a Goldorak in the spring. So I set my sights on some things I probably won't see. This next piece is my friend Phil's, and it is a complete set of all the robotic characters from Mego's The Black Hole toy line. Canada had paid in advance for the second wave, so it was coming whether they liked it or not. They still remain hard to find, but this is the area where they originated from, so it's kind of cool to see. I do have a set of these, but man, I still just kind of get all giddy when I see them together like this. Speaking of giddy, there were 2 boxed Canadian Tron light cycles. These kind of ate my day because I saw them a half an hour before the door opened and the booth was closed. So I took a photo and tried to make a mental note of where they were, and it took me about 4 hours and assist from my friend Mario to figure out where they were. They were pricey, and honestly, I didn't want to go down the boxed and carded Tron rabbit hole, but I did have to kick those tires. This next piece was pointed out to me by the vendor, who was just a nice guy. He wasn't a dealer, he was a collector. It is Size from the Kenner Droids line. I was starting collecting in the mid-'80s, and I remember a lot of international collectors were asking me if I'd seen Sai or his son, or Boba Fett on the card. I remember that really vividly, and it was great to catch up on this. He was obviously way more educated on the subject than me, so I basically got a refresher course on droids. These are 2 very rare G.I. Joe Adventure Team outfits that were sold in Canada. One being a Arctic Explorer, the other being part of a Western series, and believe it or not, there were cowboys as well. I vividly remember seeing these at the Eaton's toy department as a kid, but when I started collecting, it wasn't all that well known, and I did get some pushback. I was really happy to find out that I did not dream it, as evidenced by these sets right here. This Incredible Hulk set is something of an anomaly, and I've actually found one of these before, again from a Quebec dealer. These seem to be put out to catch the heat of the television series, but I think they were yanked because the television license was separate. I'm not sure, that could be a myth, but it's an interesting mix of posters, a little Vicks jiggler, and a identification card that you are in the Incredible Hulk Club. He has lovely penmanship. I do not own or collect Pez, but I sure do love looking at them, and this was a really impressive sight. Universal Monsters, the Green Hornet. I couldn't afford any of it, but I really was thinking about that damaged Frankenstein.
The Lincoln Monsters have been reborn. Mummy rises from his ancient slumber. Dracula emerges from the shadows, flying out into the night. Frankenstein destroying everything in his path. Wolfman prowls the dark forest, looking for his prey. Phantom reveals his fiendish face. The Hunchback haunts the crumbling ruins. Assemble your own monsters with interchangeable limbs. Figures each sold separately by Lincoln Monsters.
On the regerts side of things, I only have one, well, technically two. When I first wandered the floor, I saw these amazing store displays for Albator and Goldorak. These were likely used in bookstores in the 1970s. They are very similar to the Arways Studios Jointed Giants. There was no price, and in what I can only be considered a bad idea, I assumed they were exorbitant and moved along. An hour later, I ran into my friend Mario, and he told me that the price was actually quite reasonable. Feeling kind of foolish, I raced back, but they were gone. This is likely my 400th toy show, and yeah, that is a total rookie mistake. I won't let that weigh on me, though. I snapped up some super cool swag at this show. My first pickup was this Kenner Hugo, Man of a Thousand Faces, in its Canadian box. I have some really interesting plans for Hugo in the next issue of Toy Ventures magazine, and I was looking for a really nice example for photography. This guy is clean, he's complete, so there'll be much more on Hugo coming very soon. I could not resist this Arcturus from the Saget-Aboire Goldorak action figure line. Saget was also the company that brought G.I. Joe to France, so these figures are made by Hasbro, but they're using the Hasbro Super Joe bodies, technically Darkon, and they produce two figures in the range. These are usually found all in pieces like every other Super Joe figure, and there were many examples of that at the show, but this vendor is someone I knew from the Canadian Mego gatherings, and he had done a wonderful job of repairing it. I never see these figures put together, so on that principle alone, it had to be mine. A few steps later, I found an entire store display of glow-in-the-dark monster Puffy stickers. I collect these, and 100% of my collection has come from Quebec dealers. I do not have any of these later designs, and I couldn't spend the money fast enough. Also, at my friend Phil's table, he had this press-out book based on the Gerry Anderson UFO series for $8. It had to be mine. I don't have it. I love UFO, and I have done a video on my collection I'll post here. This book has been very well loved. All the stuff is punched out, but look how cool it is. I plan to put some of these up in my office. Pity that it doesn't have any Moon Girls. And just as I was fixing to leave, I spied these three figures near the exit. These are blow-molded action figures wearing factory overstock Mego outfits. There is even a Captain Action in this range. These hit dollar stores in the late 1980s, and I've collected them for years. I've even included them in a couple of videos I've done, but I've never owned any in the package because these are poorly made cards that don't last long. The price on these three was super fair, and it's so nice to have a Spider-Man not only with his card, but his trademark mittens and pistol. As Uncle Bet said, with great power comes something something. After the show, I was treated to an authentic poutine, that was amazing, and then headed home realizing I've made a new tradition. The next show is in April, and I will absolutely return, hopefully bringing friends, and see the couple of people I accidentally missed this trip. This was a fantastic show, and if you can make the trip, it's totally worth it. I'm super happy I went even for just a day, but I plan to do it all next time. What would you have bought at the show? Let me know in your comments below or in our Facebook group, Pod Stallions. Thank you for always watching, especially to the end. If you're new to this, please consider hitting like and subscribe. We do this every week. If you're not new, thanks for watching, and please consider sharing with a friend. I'll be back next week with some new stuff, but until that time, be well and talk toys, not others. Cheers.